Welcome everybody to Laying the Points with FarleyBets. We're back at it. Been a little hiatus, 2-3 weeks maybe since I've done this podcast. A lot going on in my life, obviously. If you've been following me on Twitter or Instagram, you probably know about it. I'm a married man, I'm betrothed, I'm tied up, locked in. But I'm happy with it, man. It was, I say man like I'm talking to one person. It was a fantastic celebration. Couldn't have asked for a better way to celebrate my marriage with the love of my life. It's corny, guys. It's corny, but when you're happy, you know? I don't want to talk too much about that, but it was a hell of a time. It took me about 5 days to recover because, god damn it, I'm 35, and I can drink like I used to. I can't quite recover like I used to. But here we are back, laying the points with FarleyBets. Got a few things to cover today. I want to say a few things about these NBA playoffs. Kind of teased it on Twitter yesterday. I might say a few things that piss people off here today, which is fine. That's why we do this. Can't make everybody happy. Got to have opinions. Got to have bold statements. These NBA playoffs are very interesting. I probably wouldn't have predicted that a Chris Paul-less Suns team would have been up on the Clippers 2-0. Of course, they almost lost that game too. That was crazy at the end. The Clippers blew it. Paul George blew it. Playoff Paul at the free throw line, missing 2 straight free throws in the final seconds, giving the Suns an opportunity to go ahead. And then, of course, all the different, oh my God, the stoppages at the end of that game. There's a lot to unpack. This week in NBA betting, we are 6-1. Had another 2-0 night on Wednesday night, so that's awesome. I believe in baseball, we're almost as good too. Let me bring up the old phone here. 6-3 in MLB. I'll start talking more about baseball as we get into the summer months, but right now we're still focused on these NBA playoffs. Let's face it, they get more ratings. There's more chatter about it. The NHL playoffs are very exciting too. Patrick, you probably know him as Gator Sports at the Odds Breakers and on Twitter. He's been doing a great job over there talking NHL. But let me get to my little advertisement first. You know, God, I'm bad at that. I always skip over that. This is Laying the Points with FarleyBets. We are at theoddsbreakers.com. You can always catch my daily articles at theoddsbreakers.com, as well as many, many other posts and articles about NHL, MLB. We got UFC. The boss is always putting out his podcasts. Nick Hub is putting out his MLB picks every day. He has a video pick. He's had an awesome record this baseball season. So the Odds Breaker is doing a lot of great things. Laying the Points is my podcast, and I'm going to keep on churning these out. I can't wait to get to football season. Probably have a guest on the show. But got a few things to cover today. It probably won't be my longest podcast, but we'll talk a little NBA, and then I'll get to some of my look-ahead bets. The bets I'm looking at tonight. I'll give a free premium bet, some series predictions, and some series wager outlooks, or if you will, you know, from a betting perspective. And then we'll wrap it up. Like I said, I cannot wait to talk about football. I plan on having my buddy here to talk about football with me. My buddy Steve, one of my best friends, and he's sharp at looking at the value in the NFL. Always has sharp seasons. You know, he's hidden, he's secret. People don't know how good he is. Well, you're about to know. And he'll join me probably for a weekly podcast in the NFL. At least that's what I'm planning now. But a lot of planning, a lot of prep going into that. Win totals, looking at each division. Kiev is doing a fantastic job too, writing about that. Every single week we've got a new post or podcast out about the divisions in the NFL and the outlook on that. So can't wait. It feels right around the corner, doesn't it? I mean, really, it's 2 months away still, over 2 months away. But the regular season, man, it's upon us in the NFL. It feels like it, and I can't wait to talk more about it. But for now, we're going to focus on the NBA playoffs and these Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals. I'm going to give you guys some look-ahead bets, and let's get to it. Remember, you can always follow me at FarleyBets on Instagram and Twitter. Send me a DM and let me know if you want me to talk about anything on this podcast. If you have any questions, slide into those DMs anytime you want, and I can address your questions or anything you want to know about sports betting or what I think about a particular team or game or bet. Just let me know. At FarleyBets. Always there on Instagram and Twitter. All right, let's get to these NBA playoffs and talk a little bit about what the hell is going on and my thoughts. All right, I need to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers. And I need to talk about the Clippers because of what I saw in the second half of Game 2. And I've seen this before, right? We've all seen this story before. But in the postseason, in the playoffs, especially without Kawhi, the Clippers need to pay attention to their energy level. And it's both impressive and at the same time it's very alarming. I think the Clippers, at least from the nonverbals that I get from the team and from Tyronn Lue, it seems as if the Clippers are okay with the fact that they don't have to bring a lot of energy. They don't have to be very scrappy, right? They don't even have to be very motivated, and they can still win games. And that's kind of true. In Game 2, they almost stole a win from the Suns, a game that they did not deserve to win. Let's face it. If anybody watched Game 2, it was back and forth, but especially in the second half, the Suns were crashing the boards on every possession, offense and defense. They were relentless on defense throughout the entire game. High percentage shots, outscored the Clippers 60-30 in the paint. Let me say that again. 60 points were scored in the paint by the Suns, only 30 by the Clippers. And this isn't new. The Clippers led the NBA on the season in three-point field goal percentage, right? It was well into the 40th percentile. I don't know what the exact number was, but they were number one in the NBA in it. And they rely on that three-point shooting and perimeter shooting and isolation basketball a lot. They rely on it too much. The reality is they had no business being in that game. And every facet of that game, the Suns were outplaying the Clippers except for perimeter shooting. And the Clippers would stroll down the court, kind of mosey down the court, didn't even seem very motivated. Reggie Jackson would nail a three, Paul George would nail a three, Rondo would nail a three, Morris would nail. They were making their threes, right? They always had a way. When they went down by like 6 or 7 or 8, 2 threes brought them back. They're only down by 2. 1 3 brought them back. They're only down by 4 or 5. They just kept on doing that throughout the game, but that is not sustainable. And the thing that I think maybe is most alarming about it is Tyronn Lue, from what I can tell, appears completely content with the way that the Clippers play. And maybe it's because he has the same sort of personality. He's always calm, he's always cool, he's always collected. That's great. Like, as a leader, you need to be that way, right? But there are moments, ask Kobe, ask Tom, ask MJ, ask Wayne Gretzky, there are moments where you have to get fired up. You have to insert emotion. You channel that emotion, you channel that motivation in the right way. But you have to have the moxie, the gusto. I could say it in a million different ways. You have to be hyped up on every possession. That emotion, that drive is what creates the maximum effort on every drive, right? On every possession. You saw that from the Suns. The Suns are young. God, it's almost like a collegiate team out there, right? They play with that, live or die attitude. It seems like on every possession they play like that. Payne, Bridges off the bench, Devin Booker, sure. DeAndre Ayton is playing like a 10-year center. He's not playing like his age. And the Clippers have no chance to win this series if that's the energy level that they keep bringing. And watch for it, okay? Now, things might change at the Staples Center. There's a reason why the Clippers won every game at the Staples Center in the last series. I think they get like injected with energy, injected with motivation from their home crowd. And they seem to need that. If you watch Paul George, as good as Paul George is as a pure shooter, God, when he shoots the ball, or when somebody else shoots the ball on his team, that man does not crash the offensive rebounds. Maybe he crashes it, in the final 2 minutes. But God, he's just like, talk about laissez-faire. He's just like kind of, he's moseying around. He's just kind of standing around. He's like jogging down the court. It's ridiculous. This is not an impassioned group, from what I see, and that's really going to kill them. The Suns are going to bring it on every single possession. They're not going to let up. And when the Suns are at home, that's why they're so hard to beat. But because the Clippers are so skilled and such great shooters, they were in that game and they went ahead in the final seconds. But personally, although I had a very small bet on the Clippers money line, I was kind of happy. I mean, it was also a one-star premium bet for the Clippers to win. So that sucked. But I was kind of happy to see the Suns win because they deserved it. You know, that wouldn't have felt right if the Clippers won that game. The effort, the energy was just not the same. Now, Game 3, I already put out my article at the Odds Breakers, so if you've read that already, then you already know this. But I think this is the game that the Clippers can win. I know Chris Paul is coming back. That's obviously, he's a huge difference maker. But he's had his ailments. He still has his shoulder issues. I think the Clippers at home, injected with some natural, or should I say environmental energy, I think they'll look different tonight. And I think this is the game they could win. I do not think they're going to win this series. Just because without Kawhi, who apparently has been more of a vocal leader off the court, but now that he's sidelined, I would love to see that on the court more. But the Clippers, man, with Tyronn Lue has the same energy level. I mean, maybe that's why Doc Rivers left LA, right? Maybe that's why he wasn't a fit there anymore, because Doc will get pissed. Doc will get up, But this team, man, they're sleepwalking a little bit. And if they think that they're just going to, expertly, scientifically manage this series, we're not worried. We're not panicking. Paul George loves to say that. I'm not panicking. Well, you better start to fucking panic. You better. I said this back in the first series they're in. We're not panicking now. They proved us wrong, right? They came back in both series. They came back from deficits, but that's not going to happen against the Suns team. The Suns are too well coached, they're too skilled, and they're too energetic. When this game goes back to Phoenix, if the Suns are up 3-1, like my one buddy always says, it's night termite. No chance. Vince McMahon's theme song, you got no chance in hell to win this series unless you start bringing some more fucking energy. All right, let's talk about two of the rising superstars in the NBA right now. And I think we could stop saying stars and maybe start saying superstars, at least for one of them. And Trae Young and Devin Booker. Man, oh man. This is a quote from Nick Wright from Fox Sports, right? He has that show, First Things First. He's on Colin Cowherd's podcast a lot. Not only is Trae Young a superstar, I'll take it a step further. Trae's an arsonist. Madison Square Garden is just a smoldering pile of ash. Wells Fargo Center is just molten rubble. And in Game 2, he's just pouring gasoline all over Fiserv Forum. What we are seeing is unprecedented. I'll use that as my segue here. I like Devin Booker. He's easy to like, right? Seems like a man's man. He's not Trae Young. Right now, 7 days out of the week, twice on Sunday, I'll take Trae Young. Why? Well, I'll give you some stats and I'll give you some numbers behind why I would take Trae Young. Okay, we'll get to the data, people. People love data. We love the stats. Stats are important, right? You have to back it up. You gotta get the numbers. You have to have the points. But there's something about Trae Young that I really like that I'm not seeing from Devin Booker. And Devin Booker, part of my language here, especially for Suns fans. Love you, Suns fans. I love the Suns. Okay, so don't get me wrong. But Devin Booker, at the end of some of these games, kind of a bitch. He's kind of a bitch. What do I mean by that? Well, when the game is really close and chaotic, watch Devin Booker. He's out of control. He's too aggressive. He's fouling too much. I'll give him credit. He can make clutch shots. Absolutely. He's not afraid, right? He'll go right into the center court, bang. Nail a jumper, bang. Nail a three-pointer. Absolutely. Listen, Devin Booker is extremely talented. Okay? But Devin Booker, I think, still needs like a mentor or a father figure. Because he gets too emotional at the end of these games. He's not cerebral. He doesn't have that poise of a leader. both Trae and Devin Booker talk about how Kobe was their role model, their idol, right? Who they looked up to most. A big thing that we forget about Kobe being Bryant, all the stats, everything that he's done in the game of basketball and all the titles. That man, from the moment he stepped on the court, I believe he was 18 when he started in the NBA. I mean, he was young, right? He was one of the youngest all-stars ever. He was a leader. Even with Shaq on the team, even with old wily vet Shaq, Kobe was a leader. He had moxie. And later in his career, you really saw that come out and just his, like every second instructions on the court. But Devin Booker has a ways to go in that way. Now listen, Trae Young is 22, Devin Booker is 24. Our brain's fully mature, I believe, at around 26. Not I believe, I think that's objectively true. But I just don't know the exact number. But it ain't 24 and 22. Their brains are not fully mature yet. Okay? So emotions, think about what you were doing at 22, at 24. Emotions take us over, right? Emotions take the principal position. Okay, so we're not as rational. That's true. That's psychologically, scientifically true. But what I'm seeing from Trae Young in these situations, if you watch Trae Young on the road, where he scores more points, almost 33 points per game on the road, and in these pressure situations, Trae Young likes it. He loves it. When I watch Devin Booker, if things aren't going well, he's being too aggressive, he's fouling too much, he's flailing all over the court, he's almost getting into fights, and then when things are going well, when things are going his way, right away he's talking shit, he's in players' faces, right? DeMarcus Cousins, he's talking a big game at the end of that game, even though he had nothing to do with that final shot. Devin, if you want to become a leader in the NBA, if you want to become a superstar that's just on poster boards, like the main poster boards for the entire NBA, right? LeBron posters. You have to have the mentality of Chris Paul. I don't care that you're 24. You have to be stoic in those big pressure moments, in those bad moments when things are going awry. And of course you can celebrate and talk shit when things are going well. But don't flail all over the court and complain and get aggressive and get out of control. Watch him at the end of the games when the games are close. Okay? There's a reason why Devin Booker, listen, he's the leading scorer. He does really well at home. He does well on the road. He's done well on the road in the postseason. Not as well. Not as good. Not as clutch. When Devin Booker is comfortable, and God, what is there anything more annoying? I'm pretty sure it was Stephen A. Smith, which sounds about right. But is there anything more annoying than when someone like Stephen A. Smith, it's usually somebody from ESPN, that comes out and says, Devin Booker is the next Kobe Bryant. Yeah, he's here. He's arrived. Get the fuck out of here. Do you know what it takes to be Kobe Bryant? The relentlessness, the leadership. Forget the shots. Forget the athleticism. Just the mentality, right? It's a mentality. I'm not seeing that in every game from... Some games I'm seeing that maybe. I'm not seeing that in every game from Devin Booker. Trae Young, I'm seeing it. Trae Young is an absolute assassin. Loves being on the road. Loves being doubted. He loves to throw up the shh. He should. Tell him to shut up. Tell the crowd to shut up. I used to love playing on the road too. I used to play basketball, by the way. I used to love that. I used to love when people booed me. I'm not comparing myself to Trae Young or Kobe Bryant. But what I'm saying is that a leader shows poise for his teammates in the big moments. And while he celebrates the good moments, he expects more. He or she expects more. You saw Trae Young at the end of game one just throwing up the one, right? It's just one game. 1-0. We have a long way to go. Goddamn, you'll see Devin Booker celebrating like he just won the Super Bowl after winning a game. It's a little much. Calm down, focus, meditate, do whatever you have to do, Devin. But leadership is an emotional game. It's emotional intelligence. It's what others see by the way that you react. And while I think Devin Booker is ahead of a lot of players, he's not on the level of Trae Young. Now let's talk about some numbers. Trae Young is among one of 3 players ever to have 350 points, or at least 350 points and 100 assists through 13 games. Oscar back in the 60s, Luka, and Trae. The difference is Oscar and Luka, they did that over 2 years. Trae's done it in one season, in one playoff season. One postseason, I should say. He's also led his team in assists in 13 out of 13 playoff games and led his team in points in 11 out of 13 playoff games. He's averaging 32.75 points on the road. Ice cold under pressure. You've seen it. I don't have to tell you. Devin Booker, he's led his team in points 7 out of 12 games, and assists 3 out of 12 games, and in rebounds actually 5 out of 12 games. Kudos to him. He scores 29 points on the road, 27 at home. Good. He's good. He's really good. Devin is really good. But Devin was also drafted in 2015, 3 years before Trae, and he's already acting like, been here, done that, this is where I belong, Mount Rushmore. That's the energy that I get from him. That's the energy that I receive. Trae is out there to prove it. He's out there to show it. And let's face it, while Trae Young has a great supporting cast, he has a really well-coached team, great players all around him, he doesn't have what Devin Booker has. Devin Booker has Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards of all time, great leader. He's the dad on the team, right? Hey, Dad, what should we do next? How should we approach this? Chris Paul is going to tell you. Devin Booker doesn't have to be vocal. He doesn't have to do much. Chris Paul does that. Now, has he done it a little bit more with CP3 out? Maybe. But like I said, the emotions are kind of out of control from time to time. Devin Booker also has DeAndre Ayton, which is, he's a rising star and probably going to be an all-star next year if he keeps playing like this. He has been awesome this entire playoffs. He's making Zubac look stupid out there. What is he, a 2 or 3 year player? He was just drafted 2 years ago, I believe. So I would say really two all-stars on his team. Trae Young, great supporting cast. He's the only all-star. At 22 years old, he's also a dad. He's their leader. He is. On the court, if anyone's being vocal, if anybody's being watched about how they're handling situations, how ice cold they are, right? How energetic they are, it's Trae Young. It's not Capella, it's not John Collins, it's not Bogdanovich. He has a great supporting cast. He doesn't have the supporting cast that Phoenix has. And he has to be the leader at 22 of that entire team. Listen, I like Devin Booker. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I want more from him. I want some more poise from him. If you're gonna say that you emulate Kobe, that Kobe bestowed you with something, then act like it. I don't care that you're 24. A lot of athletes are young and they do it already. Trae Young is 22 years old. This is an unbelievable playoff run. It is better than Devin Booker's, and I will take Trae Young over Devin Booker any day of the week. All right, like I said, this is going to be a shorter podcast, but let me get to some bets that we can cover before we close this thing out. So the Suns and the Clippers tonight. The Clippers are plus 1.5. They're even money at the money line. The over or the total is set at 221.5. I'm going to give you a premium play here that I've been giving to my that I already gave to my subscribers, and that is Devin Booker under 28.5 points. I know this feels like the Devin Booker bash the podcast. It's not. I just think that Chris Paul coming back means that Devin Booker doesn't have to do as much. I think the energy of the Clippers is going to be higher. Like I spoke to previously in this podcast, I think the Clippers are going to bring a much feistier, much more active defense in Game 3. They need to, right? They need to slow down the Suns because right now they're not doing a very good job of it, and they're just staying in games because of their three-pointers. So I like Devin Booker to not score as many points tonight, go under 28.5. It's one of my premium picks. And it's another reason why Devin Booker, for me, isn't on the same level as Trae Young. He doesn't need to have a big game for the Suns to win. The Suns could easily still win this game. Booker can score 21 points, 17 points, and the Suns can win. It's happened plenty in this postseason. So I see him kind of falling off the ledge a little bit here. Maybe not even because anything he personally does, but because he's going to be a little less needed, and the Clippers have to be a little better on defense. As far as series prices go, are the Hawks worth a little play at plus 170? Yeah, maybe. I still think you can get a lot more value in betting the Hawks game to game because they're going to be the underdog. So, I don't bet a lot of futures unless there's significant value associated. That's my mantra. And while And while there's certainly, I think that the Hawks could easily win this series. When I say easily, I say what you just saw in game 1 between the Hawks and Bucks, that's not going to stop. The Hawks are going to bring that intensity at every single game. The Bucks better get used to it. And now the Hawks are up a game. And in game 3 and 4, it's going to go to Atlanta. Okay, so the Hawks already won on the road. I expect the Bucks to win game 2. 7.5 actually doesn't seem too crazy. I know the Hawks just won. I had them at plus 7.5 in game 1, and then they went up to actually 8, and I took them at plus 8 as well, and it was a premium pick. I think it makes sense that the Bucks really show out in game 2, but right now it's just a lean to the Bucks for me because it's going to be really hard to bet against the Hawks. I mean, it's not going to stop. Trae Young, I don't think they have an answer for Trae Young because they don't have somebody as agile, athletic, and quick on the outside. Chris Middleton can't handle it, and Giannis is long and a great defender, but I don't even think he can stop Trae Young right now. So for game 2 tomorrow, I'm going to lean towards the Bucks, but I don't know if I'm going to take it, and I might completely change my mind. So just note that. As far as the series price goes on the Hawks, it might be worth it. I mean, if you want, if you like your futures, go ahead. But I think you can find more value on betting the Hawks game by game. Other bets I'm looking at, the series price between the Suns and the Clippers. The Suns are minus 800. I do think the Suns are going to win the series. I think the best bet on the Clippers is game 3. If the Clippers lose game 3, I might just be off picking a side to this, to these games moving forward because I can't trust the Clippers then beyond that. This is the game, regardless of whether Chris Paul is back or not, that the Clippers should really respond. If they go down 3-0, the way that they play sometimes, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that motivation just completely fell off a cliff and they got dominated in game 4. We saw that with the Lakers against the Suns. The Suns can just be really, really overwhelming. So if the Clippers don't make this 2-1, things are not looking good. I still don't think things are looking good for the Clippers regardless. You can get them around that plus 400 level or plus 300 at some books. If you still think that the Clippers can do it again, you can rise up. It might be worth a very small play for you, but I wouldn't invest too much in that bet. A few more things I'm looking at today. Look at the Astros, look at the Dodgers, look at the Twins. All favorites, unfortunately, all heavy favorites, but all in great spots to win. My MLB article will be out later today. Probably going to have a play on the Marlins as well. I think that's a much better spot for the Marlins. The Nationals are, coming off that crazy, 23-run game against the Phillies where they just eked it out. But God, the bullpens, their rotation has to be completely exhausted. So, and they're marching into Miami where the Marlins have better pitching, have a better pitcher on the mound today. So I'll probably be looking at them for a play. If you want to subscribe to my premium picks, you can always DM me at FarleyBets on Instagram or Twitter. Let me know if you're interested. I hear my packages are one of the best values around for the rate that I win. Love to hear that. Happy to provide those picks. Okay, and for now, I'm going to close out this podcast. I told you it'd be a short one. We're right under the 30-minute mark, which is awesome. Had my thoughts about Devin Booker and Trae Young and these NBA playoffs. More to come on football and baseball in the future. Have I said that I'm really fucking excited about football starting? I really am. I know my NBA win rate has been impressive this year, 58%. I've talked about it a lot. I appreciate all the support you guys have given me. Trust me, I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring the heat just as much in the NFL season. Follow me at FarleyBets on Instagram and Twitter. Follow all of our articles at The Odds Breakers. I usually have about 2 a day between baseball and basketball, and sometimes you got some UFC in there. Check out our other writers who are doing an unbelievable job at The Odds Breakers. And until next time, folks, we'll try to get out the next pod in the next week or 2. Until then, laying the points with FarleyBets. Let's win. LFG. Let's go. Hey!